Hey y'all, I'm Dan Hamilton, host of the Next Gen Warrior Show. As always, the Next Gen Warrior Show is brought to you by Chairman George P. Bush and the Texas Veterans Land Board. To check out the resources and benefits available through the Texas Veterans Land Board, go to your browser, type in vlb.texas.gov, and you can find all of the information there. Today, I have a special guest on, author Dan Bozung of This Civilian Shit is Hard, From the Cockpit, the Cubicle, and Beyond. Dan, thanks for coming on the program with us today. I'm excited to jump into your anecdotes. I think as we talked briefly prior to the show, you talk about my story is a story of complete failure over and over again. But you really captured some great anecdotes, some really hilarious stories. The book is wonderfully written. It's easy to understand. So first of all, can you tell us when the book is out, where they can find it, and then also can you give us a little bit of your military background as well?
Yeah, for sure. No, thanks for having me, Dan. I appreciate the opportunity. So the book is out September 24th. That's when it's released. It is available for pre-order at the moment at Amazon and also at my website, danbozon.com. In terms of my background, Navy guy. So long tradition of Navy in my family, stretching back to World War I. When I graduated from high school, I had no plan. So I too joined the Navy. I enlisted, did that for a couple years, got a ticket to the Naval Academy, graduated flight training. I was a helicopter pilot. 8 years of active duty, transitioned to the reserves, and I've been going strong in the reserves ever since, 15 years now.
So the book itself focuses on a lot of different stories, from your corporate experiences to your time at Harvard Business School. I'm interested, I want to start kind of the time after Harvard Business School.
Sure.
So you're obviously with an incredible amount of highly qualified, highly professional, and highly ambitious other students at Harvard Business School. But your story took a much different turn than the rest of your classmates. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, sure. So generally speaking, most of my classmates at Harvard were interested in finance or consulting, business strategy consulting. Other people did different things, but I would say in general, a lot of people went in that direction. So that's what when I say the herd went to finance and consulting primarily. And those two things just really didn't interest me to begin with. But the big mistake I made, there were two of them. One was I had made the false assumption based on my military experience that success was a foregone conclusion, right? I was convinced after the success I had in the military that the career gods had smiled upon me, and it didn't matter what I did, I was going to be successful. So what the hell? Why not go do something interesting? Why not go do something other than finance or consulting? Because how can I screw this up? Like I said, it is a preordained conclusion that I'm going to be successful. Okay. And again, I am with some of the brightest, most accomplished people of our generation in the world at Harvard. And I said, no, I'm going to go do my own thing. Right. And that was the first mistake I made. The second mistake I made was I had convinced myself, also based on my military experience, that I and I alone was the reason for my success. Right. So I said, I'm going to be successful no matter what. I am the reason for that success. So again, what the hell? Why not go do something interesting? What I didn't appreciate then, but I do now is, all through my military experience, I had a top-notch pit crew standing behind me. From those junior petty officers to senior officers, there were people there who were creating opportunities for me, who were removing barriers to my success, often without my even knowing it. And once you took that all away and I was all on my own, yeah, big surprise. My first foray into the private sector, I fall flat on my face, right?
And can you tell us, I'm interested to, why did you fall flat on your face? Because you actually spent some time in San Diego, right? And you landed this job and you felt like you were flying high, right?
Oh, for sure. Oh yeah, it was. Okay, so this is the year before the Great Recession, right? So the economic environment is generally good. Who doesn't love San Diego? I had found a way to get there with a very someone who had owned a very small business, right? And it wasn't too hard, right? So we showed up late. We worked out every day for lunch for like 2 hours. Our office was literally right on the beach, and we went home early. And I'm like, I mean, Yahtzee. I mean, what a game, set, and match. Like, I'm done. And it's funny because, I was explaining this to my father, who had, a typical normal career. And he said, you're living in a fantasy world, man. He's like, this is not going to last. And I remember just shrugging it off, saying, Dad, you're being old fashioned. Come on, man. But yeah, there for about, call it 3 months, I was loving life. And then it all came crashing down.
Can you tell us a little bit more about why you enjoyed the military so much? Because a part of, at least from what I could understand, a part of your struggles after or in corporate life were because you self-admittedly loved the Navy so much, and you loved being an aviator. You loved flying. Tell us why you loved your time so much in the military, and give us some color and give us some context behind that experience for you.
Yeah, so it occurred to me pretty early on that this was a good fit. So again, I had no intention of joining the military, and I didn't decide to do so until very late in my senior year of high school, just because I needed college money, right? So I go to the recruiter, I sign up, I go to boot camp, right? And I'm expecting to get my ass kicked along with everybody else. And what I found was all these requirements around making your bed a certain way, folding your underwear a certain way. What I found was it was liberating, because unbeknownst to me, I was mildly obsessive compulsive. So, I had been combing and tucking and polishing and folding with great precision my entire life. So rather than have this kind of shell shock experience of boot camp, I'm like, I'm coming home. This is great. It wasn't.
You felt a sense of relief, huh? Somebody finally understands me. Where has this been my previous 18 years?
Exactly. I'm like, I get this world. I understand this. This makes sense to me. So you go from boot camp through training. I go out to my first fleet squadron, which is down in Puerto Rico. And all the people there were just outstanding. They're fantastic. So again, I'm a big history buff. I appreciate the history of the Navy. It's a long family tradition. And of course, the longer I served, the more I came to appreciate and value that. Fantastic people who, again, were just knocking down doors, running through brick walls to make me successful. So what I found was it was just a terrific fit for me personally. And again, people were just going out of their way to make sure I was successful. So yeah, I had an incredibly positive experience in the Navy. And it was like that way for my entire time on active duty. I'm one of these rare guys who I really can't point to any incident or episode that was negative for me in my Navy experience.
I'm interested to know why you decided to go to Harvard Business School. If you loved the military so much, if you had such a great experience, you talked about even just the quality of the people that you were around. Was it because you were like, man, I can do no wrong. I am killing it. I'm just going to keep killing it. And I'm just going to go kind of in a different sector, have a different experience, meet some people, and continue with the same amount of success?
Yeah. And that's a great question, right? That I often ask myself, right? So if it was such a great fit, why did you leave? And I would say that I was having a good experience in the aviation community where I was, but I wasn't loving it per se. And so I looked at some transition opportunities to maybe go fly different platforms. Those weren't readily available. And so, I was on shore duty at the time, and I'm thinking, okay, what comes next? Do I continue in my community, or do I go, look do something else? And I had I was on the staff at the Naval Academy at the time. A buddy of mine said, hey, just go throw some applications at business schools, because what if? Who knows, right? And I said, okay, I really have no intention of leaving, but all right, I'll give it a try. And I said, well, which schools do you recommend? And he's, Harvard, Chicago, Wharton. I'm like, you're no way. Like, I would not be competitive for any of these. And he said, no, dude, you don't understand. Because he himself had just gotten into the Harvard Business School. And he's like, listen, if I can do it, you should give it a shot. And, being a kid from small town Michigan and Indiana, I didn't personally know anybody who had ever gone to Harvard. And I looked with awe upon Harvard the way I think most people do who again, don't have that experience or maybe don't know. There's definitely strong perceptions around the brand Harvard, right?
But you just were like, hey, I'm going to take a shot.
I'm going to take a shot. I took a shot, frankly, not expecting ever to get in. And when I did, I thought, again, like the small town Michigan kid in me said, hey, dude, when Harvard says yes, you don't say no. So it was really kind of that simple. Now, I had no idea what I might do in the private sector. I just knew that I was really jazzed about this idea of going to Harvard. And I would just figure the rest out. And again, how can I screw this up? Successful military career, Harvard MBA, like how can I possibly screw this up?
So what was your experience at Harvard Business School? I understand that it's different than, getting your undergraduate. So different environment, maybe different structure, different people around you. I found the academic environment to be very difficult. I found it to be very individualistic. Tell us about your experience there, and did you excel like you thought you would, or did you struggle at all there?
So I would say to Harvard's great credit, they value leadership experience, and members of the admissions staff of the admissions committee very purposefully bring military folks into the business school because at that particular point in life, military people often have the most meaningful and the most obvious leadership experience in general, the way Wall Street bankers don't, for example, just as a general statement. So Harvard very actively wants and recruits and brings military folks to the business school to provide that kind of leadership perspective that some of the other folks who are wonderfully accomplished in their field, maybe they don't have, right? Because they want that leadership experience to be part of the conversation. And, when you first get to Harvard, pretty much nobody can believe that they got in, right? That's a common phenomenon. Like, how am I even here, right? So once you get past that and the barriers start breaking down and you get to know people, again, these are people, wonderfully accomplished people who have these incredible life stories that like you love going to have a beer with. So immediately you make some pretty tight bonds with these folks. And that was a very positive part of the experience. Academically, it was a kick in the ass. I mean, it's hard. I mean, you expect Harvard to be challenging. Certainly for me, it was. I mean, I've never set the world on fire in academics. So it certainly had its challenges academically. But a professor told our class pretty much the first day that, listen, the hardest part is behind you. Getting in is the hardest part. The faculty is going to bend over backwards to make sure you're successful and you graduate. You have their support. So yeah, it wasn't without its challenges, but with the support of classmates and the faculty, it turned out to be a really positive experience for me. I just wish I would have taken all the good advice people were giving. That's all.
Along the way?
Along the way, yeah.
So you decide not to follow the herd, and like you said, you kind of fall on your face. But the thing that really kind of interested me was the quote that's in the book that says, the pursuit of a passion is a fool's errand. Can you talk about what that means to you? And as you're trying to gather yourself and you're going, okay, Dan, what's the next thing in front of me? How am I going to recover from this? And ready, set, go. What is that? Yeah. The pursuit of passion is a fool's errand. What did that mean to you?
Yeah, so one of the early messages you get at the Harvard Business School is this is a golden opportunity. I mean, it could be a transformational experience if you let it. Don't squander the opportunity, right? So go pursue your. What are you passionate about? What do you really? I mean, what really gets you jazzed?
What do you really love?
Figure that out.
That I always hear, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know about you, but personally, I'm an inch deep and a mile wide. And so when the question was put to me, what are you passionate about? I'm like, I don't know, Seinfeld reruns. I mean, where's their career in that, right?
Yeah, hanging out at the pool and having beers on the weekend.
I can get passionate about that. Yeah, absolutely. But where's the career in that, right? And so what it did was it caused me to put all kinds of pressure on myself, being like, oh my God, I don't think I'm passionate. I'm capable in a lot of stuff. I'm not passionate about anything. So that put me down this path of, again, there are some very terrific opportunities that are more or less presented to you on a silver platter. And I said, you know what? I don't want any of that. I'm on board with this passion thing. I'm going to go figure this out, right? And ultimately, it led me to that job I had in San Diego that lasted all of 3 or 4 months. And just to be clear, right? So the pursuit of passion over the course of a life, I think, is a very noble and worthwhile pursuit. The pursuit of passion right off of active duty, it just, the bar is too high. It's impossibly high, right? So my focus was on what is going to be my life's work. Yeah, wrong question. The focus should have been, how are you going to figure out how to be a civilian first and foremost? And where are you going to go to start getting some valuable experience so that you can set yourself up so that over time you can start cracking this passion nut, and maybe again over the course of a lifetime you can figure it out and get there. But putting that kind of pressure on yourself when you're first leaving active duty, I don't think it's constructive, and it certainly wasn't for me.
Yeah, do you think back, do you feel like when you look back, can you feel the pressure that you were putting on yourself unknowingly?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got to the second semester of my second year of business school where all my classmates have already accepted offers to the top firms on Wall Street and elsewhere. And I still didn't have a job because I'm still trying to figure out this damn passion thing, right? And I have a wife, I got a kid, I got to figure this out, right? So yeah, looking back, it was a lot of unnecessary pressure. And ultimately, again, it was the wrong question. The question shouldn't have been, what are you passionate about? You got your life to figure that out. The question should have been, what experience do you need to go get to affect a positive transition? That's the question I should have been seeking to answer.
So were you writing this whole time?
No.
Did you? Yeah. You just kind of like stored up these anecdotes in the book are just incredible, and I wish that I was able to just kind of almost read them line by line because I was laughing through it. You write in a way that makes me feel like I'm there with you because it's so plain spoken, and I'm just kind of wondering. It's like, how did you hold on to these anecdotes and kind of tell us, deviate from the actual anecdotes themselves and tell me about the writing process. Was it cathartic for you?
Short answer is yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was very cathartic. And particularly so I think I have 14, 15 of these anecdotes in the book. Once I laid them all out side by side, that's when I said, there's something going on here. I need to get deeper into this and understand this, because once I laid them all out side by side and the story kind of came into focus, that was a pretty powerful moment for me when I could, again, kind of for myself, understand the entire story and get the entire picture. With respect to the writing process, I talk in the book about, I've spent a lot of time in the private sector, particularly the corporate arena, just bored out of my skull. Right? I'm sitting at a computer. I have very little work to do. None of it's meaningful, but I got to be here pretending like I'm busy for 40 hours a week. So frankly, to fill the time, I started writing, right? Because I'm at my computer. So when I had some downtime, and there was plenty of it, I would just capture some notes or some anecdotes here or there. And then it was last summer, I finally sat down and said, you know what? I'm going to do something with this. I'm going to tell the rest of the story. And then it was just a matter of developing kind of a daily cadence around, hey, listen, I got a quota I want to hit every day, X number of words per day, X number of words per week. And just kind of, again, getting on that daily cadence early in the morning is when I prefer to work, just getting on that cadence. And over the course of about 3 or 4 months, there it was.
I want to come back to the writing portion because I find when we have, artists on the show or we have authors on the show, I'm just interested by their work habits. I'm interested by how they go about their craft, and I'm interested to know a little bit about how you see yourself as a writer in the future. But before we do, we have to hear you talk about dealing with Gerard, a boss that you had, and then the responsibility to manage up. Can you lay that out for us?
Yeah. So is kind of as succinctly as I can put it. I was hired. The guy who hired me within just a few weeks after my taking the job was fired, was let go. And after I was hired, but before the guy who hired me was let go, he hired Gerard, the person who became my boss, right? So early on, we're both just kind of trying to get our bearings because this guy who had hired both of us all of a sudden was gone, and now we gotta figure it out on our own, right? Gerard is, I don't know, 15, 20 years older than I. He was 30 plus years into his career. I was not in the same place, so we were coming at it from a different set of experiences, to put it lightly. So I didn't get a lot of engagement or guidance from Gerard early on. And then shortly after the person who hired us left, I was put in charge of this major IT project that Gerard was totally against. He thought we shouldn't have done it, but the CEO and others had said, no, we're going to do it. So now I'm leading this project that my boss not only doesn't believe in, but deliberately or not, is undermining me on an almost daily basis as I'm trying to do this stupid project that this isn't what I was hired to do. Like, I wasn't hired to be an IT guy, but if the choice is this or the street, I guess I'll take this, right? So now he doesn't believe the project. I'm leading it. He's undermining me. And then he had these bouts of kind of selective amnesia. I would invite him to meetings. I would brief him on issues. It's the way you're supposed to do for any boss, right? I'm trying to keep my boss informed. I'm trying to give him an opportunity to make decisions when I think it's appropriate. When I bring those to him, he just kind of brushes them off and says, whatever. But then that night or the next day, craps all over me because I didn't inform him. So then every morning I had this routine where I got to go running into his office with a stack of emails printed out, being like, Gerard, I told you about this, and you said go do this, and he had no memory of it. So I'm like, what is this? Like, I have not encountered this before. And so he got progressively kind of more and more angry at me because he thought that I wasn't keeping him informed, although I was. And I'm like, okay, listen, he's not an email guy. Got it. I would go to his office and stand in front of him and be like, Gerard, I'm going to do this. A day later, he's forgotten. So pretty soon I'm like taking witnesses in with me. And I'm like, this is the most, this is the most bizarre thing I've ever experienced.
Just to make sure you can get a timestamp of the conversation, right?
Yes. I'm like, am I losing my mind here? Like, what the hell's going on? And he had this great habit of, he wouldn't just blast me in an email. He would blast like my entire team, right? So this whole kind of praise in public, reprimand in private. Yeah, forget about that, right? So anyway, so
there's a CC the rest of the group, huh? And then let everyone know what had gone wrong.
Yeah, exactly right. So I did my best to kind of proactively manage the situation, but ultimately what I figured out was I was in a situation, I just didn't have the ability to fix this, right? I had made an effort to do so, but this drug on for the course of like 18 months. And, imagine working that way for months and months and months on end, not being able to improve that situation. So I didn't realize it until after the fact. I didn't go talk to HR. I didn't talk to anybody because my assumption was that those people would go to Gerard and say, okay, what's your side of the story? And now his reaction would be, oh, okay, all right, Dan is going tattling to HR, and then my life would just get worse, right? What I understand now is, so I run a business now, and I have a wonderful HR leader. Those people, you can go to them in confidence and say, this particularly is a veteran who's trying to understand kind of the civilian culture and bridge the culture gap. I think what I should have done was gone to a senior leader in HR and said, this is what I'm experiencing. Like, is this normal? Is this okay? Am I just not being thick-skinned enough? Because based on what I know now, he was actively creating and fostering a hostile work environment that should have gotten him fired. He was putting the organization at risk with his behavior. I didn't understand or appreciate that then, but I definitely should have had a conversation with a senior HR leader to understand better what I was experiencing.
So can you provide us some context around this? Like, how long were you out of the service for at that point? And also I mean, as funny as the anecdotes are, it had to be taking a real toll on you, on your professional life. What was that like?
Yeah, so this came, all right, so I left active duty in 2005. So this would have come, what, 8, 9 years after? So I've been out in the private sector for a while, right? And in terms of the toll it took, I drank too much. I wasn't eating well. I was smoking too many cigars. I would stand in my closet in the morning trying to button my pants, and I'd be like, freaking dry cleaner shrunk my pants again. I'm like, why are these not, no, it was totally unhealthy. I was having difficulty sleeping. I mean, it was having a significantly negative effect on my quality of life, on my physical health, right? And I know now, based on some reading that I've done, that it's not uncommon, right? A bad boss can affect your health, and that's what I was experiencing, right? So ultimately, I recognized this is not a situation, I'm not capable of fixing this. It's more likely that if it's a him versus me, like I'm the junior guy, so the organization, in my judgment, would be more likely to get rid of me than him. So, okay, so he's staying, that means I have to go. That's when I started networking, getting out there, trying to set up the next opportunity. Because again, I couldn't fix it, and it was having significant negative effects on my health and on my relationships. Like I was a real jerk at home. I was not fun to be around while I was experiencing this. So the negative effects extended beyond me, and I couldn't tolerate that.
And what was the wake up call? What was the change of saying, you at some point you turn a corner, right? Where you just go, damn, man, I just went from having an awesome career in the military. I've been banging my head on the wall for the last decade since. And I'm tired of, like you said, I'm tired of feeling like this. My pants aren't buttoning the way that I want it to. It's having an effect at home. So what was the experience or the conversation that you felt like maybe turned the ship or righted things to where you could be that successful version of yourself that you always essentially imagined yourself to be and had been in the military?
Yeah. I mean, that's a really important question, because so again, the anecdotes in the book, I want them, they're funny. Like looking back, there's just some weird stuff, right? How can they not be humorous? There were some dark times. There were some dark times in that experience. And I remember having a conversation with my dad. I said, Dad, listen, I've been trying to crack this civilian nut for so long. I had a successful military career. I have a Harvard MBA. Like, I can only conclude based upon repeat failure that I'm the problem. I'm like, what is wrong with me? I can only conclude that there is something wrong with me because I've been at this for so long and I've had no success. And he said, no, stop right there. He said, there was not a damn thing wrong with you. And coincidentally, about that same time, I was reading this article about this Major League Baseball relief pitcher who he was in a slump, right? And I remember distinctly this quote saying, you can never stop believing in your stuff, right? You can never stop believing in yours. I knew from my military experience, I had good stuff. I was capable of doing good work. I was capable of being a pretty outstanding leader. I knew these things. The military taught me that. I just had to put myself in the right environment in the private sector where all those positive qualities could shine. And it just took me a long time to get there. So my message to any military person that's struggling in the private sector, first and foremost, believe in your stuff. You've got good stuff. You've demonstrated to yourself and your peers in the military that you're capable of good things. That doesn't change. That doesn't change. So for sure, I mean, there were some dark times. And again, the conversation with my dad, and then coincidentally, I read this stupid article, came at the right time. And I said, here's the thing, Dan. Ultimately, I said, I am not going to let these bastards get the best of me. I am not going to let the private sector kick my ass. I don't accept that. So if it is my life's work and life's purpose to figure this out, I accept that. I am not going to be defeated by the likes of Gerard. I'm not letting that happen.
So let's
jump. I got a little fired up there. You can tell that
No, that's good. That's what I love about this conversation and that's what I loved about the book because, as you said, the stories are funny. Like some of it almost reminds you of The Office. Like you're reading
Yeah.
it and you're kind of cringing a little bit, but
Yeah.
you can also sense the personal turmoil that you're going through. And you're an incredibly passionate person who was looking for that success and was looking to emulate that and bring that forward. So, like I said, to be hitting your head against the wall for so long must have been incredibly frustrating. But you end the book with 3 points in the conclusion. One, you are not alone. Two, don't settle, but don't seek perfection either. And the last one is be a good boss.
Mhm.
And I really love that. Do you mind maybe talking about the last part? Because now you're almost on the other side, right?
Mhm.
You have righted some of the wrongs. You're running a business. Now
Mhm.
you're the boss, and you're able to take a lot of these frustrating stories, the passion that you have from it,
Mhm.
and almost send that down the food chain to
Mhm.
people like myself, other veterans who are going to be getting out of the armed forces in the coming year or two, or veterans who may be struggling in their transition to civilian life. So can we
Mhm.
just start and the conclusion actually in part 3 where it says first be a good boss?
Yeah, for sure. And I believe very, very strongly in that. Um, so I would say this: you would be amazed as a veteran the positive force you can be in somebody's life given the leadership experience you have, right? So, I mean, I don't care if you spent 40 years and you're retiring as a 4-star, or you spent one enlistment and you're getting out as an E4. The brand of servant leadership we're taught in the military is powerful. If you take the basic tenets of servant leadership and apply it to the private sector, you will literally put years back on some poor schmuck's life in some cubicle somewhere. I mean, if you just apply the most basic principles of servant leadership, you will improve a person's quality of life. Okay, I live that. I experience that. So that's why I say to any transitioning veteran, right? If you don't have it figured out, if you don't have a plan, you don't know exactly what you want to do, my mantra for you is when in doubt, lead. Go, don't accept a position where you're not leading. Don't be a single contributor, right? Unless it's part of a broader plan, you're really jazzed about, I don't know, marketing, and you want to go be an analyst because it's part of a broader plan. That's great. If you're still trying to figure it out, go lead. Go be a good boss. Because my experience, right? So I'm going to generalize here. My experience is there is such a need for that in the private sector because keep in mind, people in the private sector don't necessarily ascend to positions of leadership because they're capable of leading, right? They may have a certain amount of expertise in a particular area. They might be the person who just has been hanging around longer than anybody else, right? They might be the only person who's willing to take the responsibility. That doesn't mean they have any leadership ability. I think the military does a nice job of setting the expectation that no matter who you are going to lead. You know, every Marine or rifleman, you know, you need to be able to step into the breach and lead. I think we all have that in common in our military experience, and there is such a need for that in the private sector. If you take that servant leadership anywhere, go be a frontline supervisor at a 7-Eleven, like I don't care. You are going to improve somebody's work experience and somebody's quality of life in doing so. And there are all kinds of great benefit that comes from that, economic and otherwise. Okay, studies have shown that. So first and foremost, when in doubt, lead, be a good boss. Be a good boss.
In the two other points that you end the book with, you are not alone, and don't settle, but don't seek perfection either.
Mm-hmm. So the first one is, so again, at one point in my experience, I said, there's something wrong with me. I can only conclude that there has to be something wrong with me. And about that time, I described the conversation with my father, but I also had just kind of these serendipitous encounters with fellow Harvard graduates, fellow veterans, and they were also struggling. So my reaction was not, oh, good, I'm glad you're struggling. So am I. My thought was, oh my gosh, okay, so maybe I'm not the only one who's experiencing this. I'm not the only one who's struggling with this. And I don't want anybody to struggle or suffer, but it's very comforting to think, I'm not the only one. I'm not alone. I'm not alone in this. And so my message, the reason why I wanted that to be in the book was, listen, I'm a former Navy pilot. I got the shades and everything to prove it, right? I got a Harvard MBA, for Christ's sakes. If a guy like me, who has had every possible advantage going into if I can fail being equipped the way I was, you know what? You're probably doing okay. Okay, you are not alone. I want it to be a message of encouragement for others, because I found it so encouraging when I found other veterans who were struggling in the same way that I was. So that's the "you are not alone" piece. The other piece, don't settle. Back to this passion thing. There's the saying out there that, if you do something you'll love, you'll never work a day in your life. I'm a subscriber to that. I'm a believer in that. But what I've found is, in the times where I've been in a good fit role, the value I've been able to create was far greater than when I was in any other role that was a lesser fit. What I found was, there were a couple times when things were clicking for me. People were experiencing me more positively, and I didn't have to go look for opportunity. Opportunity came looking for me, right? When I was struggling, people experienced me as a complete asshole. When I was on my game in a good fit role, people experienced me very, very positively. They wanted to help me. They would bring me those experiences. That's why I say you got to get the flywheel spinning, right? There's this compounding positive effect that I think takes place when you're in a good fit role. Don't do what I did, where I'm swinging for the fences, where I'm seeking perfection because I'm in pursuit of my passion, right? That was not the approach. The 80% solution is probably all you need. So that's why I say, get yourself into that good fit role, right? It's all about realizing your full potential, right? I want every veteran to realize his or her full potential. A lot of that has to do with the fit with the role you're in. Okay. Absolutely. But again, if you're seeking perfection, I think you're just going to disappoint yourself. And you could pass up a lot of really good opportunities along the way as you're seeking perfection. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. So the book is going to come out 24th of September. Mm-hmm. Where can we also keep up? I know you're doing some more writing kind of on a more routine basis. Is that correct? Where can the audience go to find that?
Yeah. So my website, danbozon.com, is where I have a blog that I'm doing there. There's some, I've written some articles, there's some media there. So everything can be found right there at the website.
Awesome. Any last anecdotes or words of wisdom that you'd like to leave us with that we didn't get to touch on within the book, or your experience that you would like to leave the audience with?
I would just say this, for the transitioning veteran, I'm excited for you. The world needs your leadership, right? The world, I honestly believe that. I think you have an ability to be a positive force in the world, to create a lot of value. And I hope you will continue fighting until you find that good fit role, so the world can get the benefit of your experience.
Dan, thank you for joining. I think we're going to leave it there. That was an incredible conversation, and I appreciate you providing really some words of wisdom, some great stories, some funny anecdotes, and we wish you best of luck with the book. Where can we go out and find it again once it's available?
Sure, it's on Amazon at the moment. You can find it on Amazon.
Perfect. Dan Bozung, author of This Civilian Shit Is Hard. Go check it out. Follow his website for more of his daily and weekly writing. Dan, thank you for being on the program with us today. On behalf of Chairman George P. Bush and the Texas Veterans Land Board, thank you for joining us. Please share the content, share the video, refer us to a friend. We love being able to have conversations about personal and professional development from a veteran's perspective to continue to serve and lead in our communities after the military. We'll see you next week.
Follow us on Instagram at Voices of Vets, on Twitter at Voice of Veterans, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Voices of Veterans. To hear more, please visit voicesofveterans.org. Join us in sharing the success stories of Texas veterans. Thank you for joining us for the Next Gen Warrior podcast.